Holding a pose for 2 minutes can change your hormone levels. Reading a few carefully chosen words can subtly influence how you behave. These aren't guesses, they're scientific findings. Published, cited, taught in schools. These discoveries didn't stay in the lab. They spread into TED Talks, into books, into workplace advice, into how people think about themselves. Ideas like this don't just describe behavior, they shape it. So let's talk about this discovery. Power posing. Stand like this. Hands on hips, shoulders back, chest open. And you don't just look confident. You feel confident. You become confident. The claim goes even farther. The 2010 study, published in Psychological Science, showed measurable results. Your biology changes. Testosterone raises by 19%. Cortisol levels drop by 25%. That is a big reduction in stress. It's simple. It's empowering. It feels true. Like fake it till you make it. So just stand like a superhero and your biology follows. And for a while, it entered the popular culture as a scientifically proven fact. Then there was something subtler. Young adult participants were given a basic task, unscrambling words. Participants may have thought it was a sort of word game, testing how quickly they could unscramble the words, but it wasn't about that. Hidden in those unscrambled words were themes: old age, slowness, fatigue. Afterward, they walked more slowly down the hallway, as if they were older, more frail, influenced subtly by the words, the concepts they had taken in. It suggested something deeper, that your behavior could be shaped by nothing but words. The power of suggestion, without you even noticing. Your brain can be steered without your knowledge or permission. Some people thought this big effect from a few simple words really defied common sense. Others felt the opposite. The idea that what we read, what kind of ideas we allow into our minds can subconsciously influence our behavior. It seemed intuitively right. And science had actually proven it. Pretty soon, life coaches and self-help influencers were advising their clients to put up sticky notes on their bathroom mirror with affirmations that would subtly shape their behavior in a desirable direction. And then, one of the most famous experiments of all, the Stanford Prison Experiment. Volunteers became guards and prisoners in a simulated prison. Within days, the guards became psychologically abusive and domineering. The prisoners demoralized and distressed. The conclusion was powerful. Ordinary people, given power and emblems of authority, can become cruel. It didn't just explain behavior, it explained something about us. It became a reference point, a warning, a kind of data point that people carried with them as part of their perception of what human nature looks like. This experiment seemed to reveal human nature itself. But there's a question that comes after every discovery. A simple one, quiet, but important. If something really works when you do the same thing a second time, you'll get the same result, right? The power poses, the subjective feeling of increased confidence remains, but the biological effects on testosterone and cortisol don't reliably appear. The priming effect with words, when tested again, it disappears. No slower walking, no hidden influence from the words, just normal behavior. And the prison experiment? Later analysis revealed participants were guided, controls were missing. And when other researchers tried to reproduce it, they couldn't. Different experiments, different ideas, but the same problem. When tested again, the effect weakens or vanishes completely. Why? Because finding a pattern is easier than proving it's real. Small samples can produce big effects. And if you run enough tests, like we talked about in previous episodes, something will appear significant, even when it isn't. Factors may be at play that the designers of the original experiment didn't take into account, that the people who try to repeat the experiment handled in a different way. Or maybe the people who repeated an experiment did something different from the original researchers, something they thought was so trivial that they didn't even record it. The power pose research? It's still controversial. One of the original researchers decided that the results weren't actually valid. Others believed the debunking of the research is invalid. The priming words that made young adults walk as if they were old? The person evaluating their walk didn't know which students had unscrambled the possibly mind-altering words and which ones had not. But the main researcher, who was interacting with the subjects, knew who got which words. So some critics suggest that the subjects could have picked up subtle cues from that main researcher, which led them to behave differently. The participants in the Stanford study all knew that they were not in a real prison situation. It was hard to rule out whether they were simply playing out the roles they had been assigned. Everyone, after all, had seen movies and TV and knew how guards and prisoners typically acted. There had been so many important experiments whose results were considered canonical science until they couldn't be replicated by later researchers that this replication crisis has been very troubling. But scientists also do research on the research and have found some more patterns. Studies that have small sample sizes fail to be replicated more than studies with lots of participants. Studies that show surprisingly large effects that seem to be too good to be true are likely to give different results when repeated. Studies where researchers had to play with the statistics a little to get the positive results, or when they tossed out negative results because they decided there was some problem that accounted for the negative results. This kind of monkey business made for results that couldn't be replicated. Experts say that they can predict very accurately which research papers are unlikely to stand up to an attempt to repeat the experiment. But that educated intuition itself has to be cross-examined because there's also a danger of refusing to publish a genuine result from a high-quality experiment that goes against some mainstream paradigm just because the expert knows that it has to be wrong. This might feel unsettling. How much can we be sure that scientific discoveries really are authentic? But it shouldn't worry us too much, because this isn't science failing, it's science working, testing, repeating, self-correcting, weeding out weaker ideas so stronger ones remain, separating out the signal from the noise.
Next time, we'll look at a series of strange coincidences ripped from the headlines that have launched conspiracy theories heard around the world. And one of those theories might not only be the most reasonable explanation, but carries such chilling implications for the whole world that you won't even have to question why, they might do that.